Hello, and I am going to try to talk about a food today. I have noticed myself having a lot of trouble getting recipes that aren't packed full of cayenne and um, like hot stuff when I'm trying to look for Indian recipes online. So for the last, gosh, I hate to say this, but it's been like since 2019, I've been trying to find a version of tikka masala that wasn't quite as hot. I mean, I think ours was good when I was doing better. I don't know how I was eating that much garam masala inside tikka masala, but whatever. It was probably a good teaspoon or more, maybe even two of that stuff, and then cayenne on top of it. Anyhow, we went to a local restaurant. I can't remember the name of it now. Marinade Indian restaurant or something like that. And we bought a vegetarian but not spicy tikka masala there. And so part of why we like this tikka masala is probably because they put sugar in it or honey, I'm guessing. Or they almost have to. And then they have probably a higher salt content, and then they probably have higher fat content. And then they've got a lot of spices to it. So my position is, though, that you don't need the salt and fat and sugar in the levels, and also in addition you do actually need lemon or lime or something like that. Probably I don't remember, actually, or apple cider vinegar or something. But we couldn't figure out what it was that was making this local restaurant's food a little bit better, and we think we know now. So we think it is the coconut cream addition. So I want to talk about that, where we got the kind we use. You can also get this other kind that I'll see if I can find it. It's the same brand though. Let's Do Organic. It comes in a box. The box is actually, it's got plastic. I know it's plastic, but yeah, I have looked for a lot of coconut creams and I haven't found one that's as good as this. So if anyone's got a recommendation, go ahead. And there is a one that's guar gum free that has got the same thing we just bought. I don't want to, it's down there.
It's coconut milk. Yeah.
But it's coconut milk, guar gum free, same brand, same kind of label, right?
It's
Okay, maybe she's gonna get. I get tired of having to wash my hands, so we're in the middle of cooking. So I'm gonna make her wash her hands now.
This is the native forest.
So you gotta just check. There we go. So it's a little bit different. I'm sorry, it looks exactly the same, but to me, but it is different. So
one of the boxes, Let's Do Organic brand. This one.
The reason we got this is because we're gonna actually do another one based on this other guy's channel, YouTube channel.
It's from curry.
He's, I think, Jamaican, but he cooks a lot of Indian spices and stuff, and he's talked a lot about curries. So this is our version of a not so spicy tomato-based vegan tikka masala. If you should want to do the chicken part of it, you will need to use a pan and cube your chicken into small pieces that are probably about, I don't know, an inch cubically, a cubic inch. I hope that you were going to say that wasn't on. I was like, oh God, then all this talking. But and then you're going to want to turn your pan to probably fairly high. I think, didn't Casey say it should be medium high? Anyway, it's high when you're searing, and you should know this before you do it. And I believe he said that actually just the fat from the chicken was enough when doing this on a pan. If I had a designated pan that was a cast iron pan, I'd use cast iron to do this just because I like cast iron. I'm not sure it's the best pan to be using to sear. If I was afraid it would stick, I would use a small amount of coconut oil. Unrefined is always best. Cold press is what we use, and it is refined, but it's the best we can do. Put those on the pan and sear your chicken, and then you're going to do this marinade, and you can put your chicken in there. I think that's the way it works, but you'll know if you're working with chicken anyway. So the marinade that she made is actually sitting in this container off to the left right here, and she's writing this out very patiently. And I'm going to try to talk about what's in here as soon as she gets done with writing this one part. I wanted to type it out, but she's old school. Okay, so I just want to... So the marinade, you're going to take 6 cloves of garlic. This is a to-taste thing to a degree, although for accuracy, do you remember how much it was? Or
which thing?
How much garlic it was, or was it just
It's about
small
1.5
Okay,
tablespoons.
so roughly 1.5 tablespoons. You know, if you get somewhere close to a tablespoon, you're probably okay, but it does matter. So, okay, so 1.5 tablespoons or 6 cloves of garlic, 1 tablespoon of ginger. It's just easier to do it that way. I found if you cut like a thumb's amount, a pretty good sized thumb's amount of garlic, I cut like an inch or so. It seems like ginger. Sorry, I found that it usually yields about a tablespoon. And then it's 1 teaspoon cumin, 1 teaspoon ground coriander, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/8 teaspoon garam masala, and she just replaced this with a 1/16 teaspoon of cayenne. I know there's a difference between garam masala and cayenne. However,
it's a very small amount of cayenne.
Yeah, it might even be less than. It's 1/16 of a teaspoon isn't that much cayenne. So, I'm just kidding. Okay, if it does say approximately. Okay, so the thing is that when you don't have something like garam masala, you can either cook the dish or not cook it. She opted to cook it. There's enough spices in here that it probably is not going to matter that much. Garam masala probably has some black pepper in it. I suppose you could do a couple of cranks of black pepper in it, or peppercorn or so if you wanted to. I can't remember what else garam masala has in it.
I need to look that up.
But honestly, you could probably make garam masala. If you're going to use garam masala, it's an 1/8 teaspoon of garam masala. It's certainly not that much. We get ours at Natural Grocers. 2 teaspoons lemon juice. And that goes in. I think she heats this. I think we've heated this, but
I do heat it.
But don't heat that lemon juice.
I know. I turn it off to put the lemon juice and the yogurt in. I heat it the rest of the time because of the ginger and garlic.
Yes. So, and then 1/2 cup yogurt, cashew or your own choice. We use cashew yogurt in this. It's really good. So, and actually, Trader Joe's sells cashew yogurt for cheaper than the alternative, which is Foragers. And so, it's quite a bit of savings to get it at Trader Joe's.
It's
so
like
I'm just saying.
$4.99 versus $6.10.
$6.99. It can be $6.99. It can be $5.99. It's usually $5.99, right?
Okay. At Natural Grocers, it's $6.15 right
wow.
now.
It's just so much more expensive. Okay, so when you do this marinade, you are going to take all of these things that I talked about. Your garlic, you want to chop your garlic up fine. And your ginger, you're going to want to do that fine. Sarah, you're cooking that, right? On the stove, your garlic and your ginger?
Yeah.
Okay, so what
just
you do
on low heat.
is you take a pan. What type of pan did you use?
I used a small pan.
It's like a small version of what's on the right here, I believe. Oh no, it's smaller. Sorry. It's a saucepan.
You can also use a small version of something like this or this. If
you can pretty much use any pan that you've got. Even a small version of what's on the right would work for this. My dad used to do it.
Yeah, it would.
And you're going to take your ginger and your garlic, put some water in it, right? Until it covers it.
Yeah, just a small amount. So mainly, I kind of go a little bit over it, but it just needs to be enough so it doesn't evaporate and start to burn if you happen to walk away.
Yeah, you want to put some water on there.
Keep an eye on it.
And then you cook that, what is it, for 15 minutes?
Roughly.
I'm wanting to say it's about 15 minutes. So this is a little bit to taste thing. If you don't like to cook your garlic and your ginger and you want a really hot thing that hasn't been cooked stuff, then you don't have to do it. You can just do it for 2 minutes or 1 minute or 5 minutes or whatever amount of minutes you want to do it. Nothing. Because some people probably do it raw. The water gets really hot from the ginger oils and garlic oils that come out. I tasted it, so I know. But it tones down the other parts of that when you're eating it straight, and it's much less pleasant to get ginger in big chunks too. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. In case I don't, though, we use a hand blender to blend all this stuff together and make it really smooth at the end. So it's more like a soup or like a tomato soup or chili. It's been blended. So once you've got that cooked, that ginger and that garlic, then you're going to add in your spices that I talked about. So the cumin, ground coriander, and paprika, and your salt, which I'm not sure I mentioned this, but it says 3/4 teaspoon salt. That is obviously a to taste thing. So you could wait until the end and put the salt in and see if you need that much. That's what we got it down to so far. And And then add in your garam masala or cayenne in our case. And then when you got all that stuff and it's kind of mixed up, then you can take it off the heat and you put lemon juice and yogurt in it and stir it in. And I think at that point, she takes this hand stirrer, Sarah does, and she grinds it up, and that's how it got so. Oops.
I don't do that until I make the sauce too. I blend it all together.
Okay. So that right there is just the marinade.
Once I finish the marinade, I put it away.
Okay, so the marinade actually. So even with the ginger in there and everything,
it gets blended after I make. So
it's okay if you did blend it though. It's not gonna harm anything. Okay, it just will lead you to having to blend it twice. So you don't have to blend it at this stage if you don't want to, because there's a second part to this. There's a second part to this thing because of the way the tikka masala is made as a marinade and then a sauce that you make on the stove. And I would say to take this sauce that I just talked about and put chickpeas in it as much as you can handle, anywhere from a half cup to maybe a cup. Of
right now that's what's about a half cup is in there roughly.
Because it just gonna add protein to it. You can also use pinto beans or I don't know, I've got fermented tofu. Don't do that too often and make sure it's organic. And like I said, you can do the whole meat thing and then add that into there as well. Once that can actually marinate, you should be marinating for like 8 hours in the fridge. But we have done it without it. It's just as good. So once this is done, you set that aside in the fridge. And then the second part, where she's writing this down. I can't believe she's writing this down. That's how much I've talked, and she's sitting there writing this down. Crazy man. Okay. I'm waiting though. I wanted to tell the other part of it, although we'll probably mix this part. And I'm sorry that I didn't show that on camera, although I almost always write stuff down in the description, and I'm likely to write this one. I'm not going to take our thing and cut it and paste it. I'm going to type it out. I'm going to write it in the description. But if I didn't, you actually have me saying it out, which a lot of people don't do when they're cooking. They sit there and I'll put this amount in, or they just videotape themselves doing something, and they expect you to guess. I don't know. That's an interesting way. And I'm going to pause this because it's going on. I don't want to, this has already been 12 minutes. Okay. Okay. So, here you go. Look at that. This is writing.
Pause the video
this
at
is
this
writing.
moment if you need the
you can pause
recipe.
this if you want the recipe. And just take a quick, can't you just take a screenshot? There you go.
Okay.
There's your screenshot. So, I'm not going to hold it there forever because I did hold it there. Let's get my hands getting tired. My arms are getting tired. I've been sick. Really sick. So, this is the curry sauce that goes along with it. You're going to want to, at this point, probably use a pan like it's on the right, a big pan. And you're going to put in there 2 teaspoons turmeric, 2 teaspoons coriander, 1 teaspoon cumin, 1/4 teaspoon garam masala. Again, we're going to have to substitute cayenne for that. 1/16 teaspoon. So funny.
That's funny.
And you remember the discussion about it. Go looking if you need garam masala, and you can make all these spice recipes at home, because these are all Indian mixture things. They have to be, or other areas. How much is it? 3/4 teaspoon?
3/4 teaspoon.
3/4 teaspoon salt in this as well. Again, if you're on a restricted diet, try to get that down, or use Morton Lite. Yeah, I don't normally recommend that, but it's got potassium in it for people who have.
I feel that even with both of the things, you could drop it down to a half teaspoon in each one.
So there you go. That's only a teaspoon in the whole thing. If you need to, I haven't done it yet, but I might do it. Morton Lite salt, just to again give yourself a little bit of extra potassium with that and lower those sodium levels. 1 to 1 2/3 cup tomato sauce.
Oh, don't forget the 1 tablespoon.
1 tablespoon paprika. 1
to 1 2/3
cup tomato sauce. When you use tomato sauce, can you grab that? Do not use tomato sauce that has a bunch of sodium in it. This is strained tomatoes. No salt added. It's organic.
Natural sodium, which is 5 milligrams.
You can also get stewed tomatoes, stewed whole tomatoes, and just grind them up. I meant to do that and use fire roasted. I'm so out of it. Anyway, you can use fresh tomato from the garden if you have it. You just grind it up. You have to make sure you've got enough though, that amount, whatever that amount is, 1 2/3 cups tomato sauce. And then it says in here 1 tablespoon coconut cream. It's a perfect amount for this. We did it. And 1 to 1 2/3 cups water.
That can be very dependent because I usually put water in this.
Yeah, so you kind of want to, I don't know if I'll be talking about this a whole lot here if we're going to mix it here, but maybe I'll leave the camera on. Who cares? I might have to pause it just briefly to take a little break here, and maybe I'll try to gather these spices together right here, right now.
Yeah, we will.
Maybe I'll try to gather them and then meet you back here in a few seconds. Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
You're probably going to see my hat that I made. I made this hat. I don't know if you can see me at all in there or not. If you can, then you can. Yeah.
Then now.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
I made this hat. Anyway, okay. Sorry that you couldn't see me at first. That's probably a little gas lady of me. But we're putting in the spices. This
is cumin.
Okay. So a teaspoon. I keep wanting to toast the cumin seeds and do that. It completely makes a different flavor. I believe that. It just takes more. And this is coriander, right?
Yeah, coriander.
So teaspoon. What's nice about these is they're even increments. So like 2 teaspoons coriander. Coriander is one of those I don't actually think you can go as wrong with. It's got a nice flavor to it. It's where there's some kind of floral. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's a sort of floral taste to it, you know. Which coriander is what again?
Coriander is cilantro. The plant.
Okay, that explains
I think it's the seed. It's just the seed of
that explains it then, because cilantro has kind of a nice fragrancy taste. And this is turmeric, and it's
2 teaspoons. I swear we had some more, but we have enough for this here.
We're gonna get through it. For the day.
Still probably about 2 teaspoons there.
It is always hard to say if there's something up in those cabinets too. Just let it in.
Oh, there might even be a spice bag like this in the cupboard. This is paprika.
And it's
a tablespoon.
And the thing is, everything I was seeing online.
Is something you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with that.
Unless it's smoked.
Yeah, if it's smoked, you can sort of really go wrong with it. It gets sick. But, and then what's this here?
This is cayenne.
Cayenne.
I'm just going to take a little tip.
It's a small amount, like probably less than 16. If you're more into cayenne and you want to try this out,
you're into spices. The coconut cream.
Same with garam masala. You can add a bunch of garam masala. The recipe that we had actually called for like a teaspoon in both different parts of it, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it calls for. Let me see here.
It's at least a teaspoon.
It's a teaspoon.
Like it's at least.
Teaspoon in one, and a tablespoon in another.
And believe it or not, I don't know if we ever put a tablespoon in it. No. But I think we did put 2 in there at one point, and I could tolerate it. I don't know how. I don't know what was going on. I guess I was more into spice at that time.
You wanted the spices.
You know, I know we did use a lot of yogurt and tomato sauce. Many people may not think it's a very good idea to have tomato in this. It is a nightshade. I don't know what to say. I am going to try one where I use more mango as a base. But don't tell me anything about mango. I don't want to hear it. You know why? I'm running out of foods. I'm joking. But you can tell me all you want about any of it. Just come up with an alternative. So we've tried to use like yam and squash. It's okay. The summer squash might work as an alternative with a little mango in this instead of tomato sauce. But don't kid yourself. It's not going to be the same. But I am going to try it. And the reason why is because we have to have alternatives. There's even a purple potato that you can cook until it's caramelized. I think that might actually have a pretty good taste too, but I don't know. So for right now, if you can with the onion, it caramelizes it. We did it this way. Actually, you know what? It's kind of caramelizing.
Yeah.
With the onion that she did, so she basically
a little bit more than I usually do.
But she cooked the onion. How much onion was in this?
It's a whole onion.
I can't remember if I talked about that.
I think I forgot to write that down.
It's important that you know this.
Yeah, I forgot to write
that down. That is a whole onion, medium size, roughly. Okay, probably I don't know, the size of a softball, It's maybe not that quite that big. It's like a waffle portion.
It's about a medium size
Hefty,
onion. There's
hefty.
one
Hefty
down there,
onion.
but
I don't want
have
to
to.
touch it. That's the big one. It's a big onion.
I used about a medium
large
size, probably
onion and cut it up.
Doing
Yeah, you know, it's
3 or
pretty
4
good.
inches across.
Big apples actually. Big apples
that's
are better size. And she cut it all up, cooked that on low heat. Put water in it if you're gonna walk away, especially. If you're not gonna use water, use a small amount of coconut oil in the pan, and just cook it really low heat until those onions caramelize. You could also put onions, put a little bit of oil on them, and put them in the oven in a baking dish and let those cook at like, I don't know, probably 300 degrees or something, with a lid on them, like Corningware lid on them, and just let them cook and cook and cook. Put a little water in the pan with a little bit of oil. But she did this on the stovetop, medium-low heat, covered a little bit in water, and she just let it cook for, God, I don't know, was it about an hour?
This here?
Yeah.
This hasn't been an hour.
Half an hour?
Probably at least half an hour.
Okay.
It's a bit more than what I usually do.
So half an hour, but you know,
Maybe
the
20
more
minutes.
the better. When you're with onion,
Maybe
it's
slightly over
caramelized
half
it,
an hour.
okay? So she did a pretty good job, because I can tell, because of the way the onions look. They have a nice translucent look that you know how it looks. You're better at cooking than I am. I'm not even good at cooking.
Me.
Sarah's better at cooking, and you guys are too. Pretty much anybody who has feet and eyes and anything is better than cooking than I am. Have a head. Better because I wasn't allowed to cook. I just wasn't. I could clean. Really good at cleaning dishes. And I'm good at making hats. But I'm not. I'm also good at making blankets. And if you want anything, let me know down in the comments for crocheting. But yeah. So here we are. Then we have all this. It's starting to look good. See if I can.
That's when we add the spices. You can actually let it cook for another 5-10 minutes.
I'll let you see here quickly. I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna do it. There you go. So you see how it's got a nice kind of, move that around a little bit. It's kind of got this sort of like
caramel almost look,
caramel color look, and it's the thin, watery type gravy type. It's very nice though, and that's going to be mixed together with this sauce, which is a marinade. I'm sorry that I told you that it was ground up, but if you ground yours up anyway, it wouldn't matter.
I mean, you could also grind that up, and if you like having whole
some
chopped onions
people,
in there,
some people are not like we are. Like we like texture stuff. This is the marinade, which is more like a, I don't know. If you've ever worked with nut butters or pad thai, it kind of reminds me of that consistency.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna take these two things and we're gonna blend them together, and it's just really good. Oh, we gotta put the tomato sauce in there too. Okay, I'll back off a little bit here and let you just. Dude, how much is it?
This is a cup measurement.
Okay, cup measurement.
Start with a cup.
And this is the one where... And I wish there was some other thing to do with this, but right now we at least got a good recipe. We were pleased enough that we didn't go back to the restaurant for this. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to go to this restaurant? No, it does not. Going to a restaurant is an experience. I highly recommend Marinade Indian restaurant. It's very good. Restaurant. It's very good. I don't know about their salt and sugar and amounts. I don't know what they're doing in there because when we did this one, I felt pretty good about it. Do I think that their stuff has some sugar in it? Yep, you bet I do. Sure so if you're missing that sweet punch, you could take mango and cut up a couple of chunks of it. Like just take half a mango and maybe actually quarter a mango. And take that and just maybe cook it until it cooks down like you're going to make a chutney. And keep an eye on it. I can't remember. Sarah, do you have to put water with that when you do mango, or is there enough water inside the mango? You probably put a little bit of water.
About a half inch.
Yeah, you need a little bit of water.
It has to cover the bottom of the pan at least a little bit.
And then you're just going to cook that like you would cook down anything, right? And you're going to cook it down like you cook down applesauce or anything.
It's basically like making applesauce.
And then that will be ground up too. And it's you could cook it in there. You wouldn't even have to grind it up, okay? It probably will just cook down really nicely. And then when you blend this, it will blend up anyway. And that would give some nice sugary taste to it, even with just a piece or two. Like when you cut apple pieces, that's enough right there. The coconut really adds some sweetness to this. I don't recall seeing that. Can you grab not that, but the box? Where'd I put the box? I want to see how much sugar it has in it.
It has 1 gram of sugar.
So that's over
per 1 1/4 tablespoon.
So we're not even getting 1 gram of sugar, and we're getting nice sweet flavor. I like that.
And it's literally just the coconut, the cream part, creamed coconut. So there's no added sugar.
Yes, there's nothing added, and I like that. And so, yeah, what a nice thing to have and add to this to make this dish more pleasant. And I've asked many people to give me a recipe for Indian food, and I'm quite disappointed that nobody was able to do that. That's sad. We're talking about one person. Actually, I won't even get into any detail. If you are somebody who knows how to cook, you specifically have training on it or anything like that, and you cannot help somebody, I'm not sure that knowledge is that great. I'll tell you why. Because the thing is that even if you're used to cooking in bulk, so let's say you're used to making, I don't know, a gallon of that. Let's say I used a gallon of liquid. You should still be able to tell me, take 4 onions, take, 4 tablespoons of this, roughly. I mean, you should be able to gauge it with your hand. When people cook by sight, one of the things they could do, I know this because I do it a little bit when I'm cooking. I'm not even cook. Imagine if I actually cooked. I mean, that was actually like a chef or something. But like when I go to grab a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which that's about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It might be a little bit more. That's how I do it now because I've done it that much that I know.
I've been able to do that.
So if you're a chef, you ought to know.
You should.
Alanis Morissette.
Her point made again.
Yep. Anyway,
I'm gonna pause this for a second.
Don't make a joke of me in the kitchen. Okay, I just want to come back in here and talk a little bit about what happened when we were getting our whatever together, whatever I left you on. We're getting ready to grind everything up, mix the marinade together with the sauce, the curry sauce we made on the stove, and then Sarah told me that there are garbanzo beans in the marinade, then she can't grind that because it'll just grind into a mush. So this is a learning experience, and that's true. So I went ahead and I fished most of them out by hand, and she's finishing up here. If you do want to do the marinade thing and you're particular the way we are about textures, that's why this is being ground into like basically it's like a very, very nice smooth chili. The reason that we're doing it that way is because we don't like to bite into ginger and garlic and onion so much. But if you're not particular about that stuff, you don't even have to grind this up. You don't have to. You can just mix it together and eat it.
Oh, that's true.
And so if you do want it smooth though, go ahead and make the marinade and blend it up the way I said in the beginning of this thing, and then put your chickpeas in the marinade. And then when you get done with the curry sauce that's on the stove, you remember? See, I'll do this just for a second. When you get done with your curry sauce, then you can blend that, and then you can mix it together with the already previously blended marinade sauce, which has garbanzo beans that are marinated in it for about 8 hours, preferably. The longer the better. And this is another one. This is the vegan tikka masala. If you want, you can take a picture of the screen right now, the marinade part. This is the part where you're going to add in these, whatever you're going to add in, whether it's beans or chicken or whatever you're going to be adding into it. Some vegetarians may just want to add a bunch of vegetables in this marinade.
Which you can do.
I used to do that more. Another thing that you could add in would be something like a heavy cream. I've seen that in here. Heavy cream stuff. I don't know what to tell you on how much to add in, but you could add in that, maybe a couple tablespoons of heavy cream or a tablespoon of heavy cream. I'm not going to actually show this being ground on because it's crazy, but this is what we use.
Stick blender. You could also just put it in a blender.
Yes.
Kind of getting closer to doing that.
It's a very awful sound. Not to say it makes an awful sound. It reminds me of San Andreas Fault. You know, what an awful sound. It's just ugh. Okay. Anyway, it's worse than nails down the chalkboard to me. So I'm not going to record it, but it will be nice and smooth, and I will come back just quickly to show this at the end after I go get my earplugs. Okay, so I did not want to make you like go through that. It was actually not that bad, this little stick blender. Something was rattling on it last time. Rattling has been going on in our life since 2020. This is what it looks like. Oops! That would not be good. You wouldn't like that if that fell on you. Anyway, that is what it looks like at the end of it. Is this clean?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of a really nice texture, you know. Very sorry, you gotta be able to see it. Very soup-like texture.
Butternut squash soup.
Yeah, that's what we're sorry. I don't know what my deal is today. But we did manage to get out this stuff. You can see here along the side. Don't do what I did. Okay, or what we did. Don't put your stuff in unless you don't want to blend this. Because you'll end up blending all that. It's okay if you blend in chickpeas. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, if you blend it in the chickpeas, it'd just be a soup you'd be able to drink really easily.
If you have trouble processing beans
like for me,
it might be a good idea to blend.
For me, in all honesty, something like that probably wouldn't even hurt to be blended. So worst case scenario, you have to blend it. Who cares? Not a big deal. It's a nice proteinous thing. And a lot of people they're going to critique on the basis of that this has some inflammatory foods in it. Specifically the tomatoes. Go ask your doctor what I can put in its place, or your herbalist or naturopathic physician. I need help. I'm actually not being snarky here. If there's a substitute, I am so game for it. I like alternatives. But at this time, I do need to eat food. Food matters as well. Also, people are inevitably going to feel like they need to bring up the addition of chickpeas, being that they have, what is it called? It starts with an L. Is it lectins?
Lectins.
Lectins, whatever it is. It starts with an L. We soak our beans for about 10 hours. Go ahead and put it in for 10 hours, so overnight. And then we rinse them, and then we pressure cook them, and that reduces levels of that. And I believe it is phytic acid, but I'm not positive. Anyone who wants to bring that up, though, I do want to bring up the phytic acid. It's also good for you. It has benefits. It was brought to my attention as well.
Lectins or leptins are a necessary part of the body too.
I think there is some purpose to that. Although for what it's worth, what I read about that is that the reason it's a problem in nut seeds and in beans is because it isn't soaked properly, which helps to kind of almost pre-digest it or something like that.
Yeah,
and soaking it,
the pressure cooking.
And then pressure cooking it more and more of that, and so that kind of the water that you toss out, and I would recommend that you toss the water out, will have a lot of that stuff in it. One of my friends told me, "Guys, you're throwing the water out. That's all the good stuff." Well, that's just it. You can talk about that L, the lectins, if it's lectins, if it's not lectins, sorry, and you can talk about the phytic acid, but then the people who are on the opposite team are going to stand up and say that those things are also somewhat good, especially the phytic acid. And in tomatoes, lycopene is there. It's extremely anti-bad stuff food. But it is a nightshade. Ginger and garlic are very, very anti-inflammatory. Yeah.
So are all the spices that are put in there too.
Yes, and the more raw you can go, the more you can put in raw ginger and raw garlic, the better. Hopefully, I don't even know if this is still going. Hopefully you have made it or you're still alive. That's partially why I put a screenshot of, put kind of the recipes in front of that thing in case you needed to just move on. And you can always I watch YouTube all the time. And honestly, I don't care. So hopefully you enjoyed yourself and you enjoyed me kind of turning the camera off and on and being like, oh, all right, let's see what says this. Because that's what my reaction to this. Okay, well, what's coming next? And in this whole recipe, what was it? How much salt?
It was, I think it was 1.5 max. It might have actually been 1.25 because I might have gone for, I think I went for a half. I went for a half teaspoon salt on the sauce part.
Try to keep down your salt amounts. In the big pan when she was making that sauce, she said she used less than a tablespoon of coconut oil. If you're cooking with water and you don't want to use oil at all, you don't have to. You can just water cook those things. I've done it before.
I just did it that time. I don't know why, but usually I just cook it straight in water.
And just one last thing to note, we did put in the recipe that we first did called for 1 tablespoon of coconut cream. We put in 2 roughly. Might have been a little bit less. It really
Just
does add that
less.
sweet kick to it. When I first tasted it after we mixed everything together, I was like, something's missing. It needs a little sweetness in it. And then I realized that the coconut cream wasn't in it.
And then it took that 2nd tablespoon to get the same taste we got before.
Yeah. So you can pour this over, like, you want to use brown rice or forbidden rice if you're using this. I guess you could use a white basmati rice, but really, it's not very good for you. I'm sorry to kill your joy there. It's not the best. You could also use something like quinoa, and it's actually not that bad. You can use quinoa, and then because the thing is all these things have, like carbohydrate load. People are trying to avoid that stuff that raises blood sugar. So
I believe if you want a pretty good, like a little bit softer, good tasting brown jasmine rice is probably one of the best
and then
options.
another alternative yet to everyone else is white rice. White rice plain, right?
Yeah.
Really I might even try it again myself. And you can just put a little bit of that. It has a lot of protein in it. That's why I'm recommending this for vegans and vegetarians. We're not getting enough protein. I'm not vegan vegetarian. At best, I'm pescatarian. And at worst, I'm a vegan who is having to eat meat. Although I have to say it is not working out for me. And that's not something I'm willing to do. To continue to eat meat where it goes to waste. No. It's just too much for me. So I'm hoping these things work. If anyone has any recommendations for other Indian food, please put it in the comments. I don't care if it's a link to somebody else's YouTube channel. Thank you. If you want to subscribe, if you want to hit like, if you don't want to, don't. Have a good night. You can even hit dislike. Bye-bye.